So a little personal story about our next inductee. I was working, as I mentioned earlier, at the Belleville radio station, WIBV, which in the early days of my career was a full-time station, news, sports, talk, a lot of community-oriented programming and such. I had been there several years and had worked my way up to the program director's position, and one day I received a phone call from Mike Kelly. And I don't know who Mike Kelly is. I'm, just doing my daily job. He said he was from Dupo, said he was a graduate of SIU Carbondale, and he was interested in doing some play-by-play at our radio station. And I told him, I said, well, we do a lot of sports, Mike, but, we're pretty much, I was doing play-by-play. As I mentioned earlier, Joe May was there. He did a lot of games, and I just didn't think we could give Mike the break that he was looking for, and so I had to thank him and say, gee whiz, we just don't have any room for Mike Kelly right now. Looking back on that, what a mistake holy moly. I had no idea who he was. I wish I could have been a bigger part of his wonderful broadcasting story, because he's gone on, as you well know, to author a great personal story of his own, and I would have loved to have been a part of it, really. Thankfully, Mike's drive, talent, sports knowledge, and as with any success story, I guess a little bit of luck, has created a journey to a great place in his life and career. And he gets to experience the broadcaster's joy of being able to call moments like this.
Out of the hold to Luke Bauer with 3 seconds to play in regulation, tied at 27. Good snap, good place. Kick is up. It is. Yes, a walk-off winner from 61. Harrison Mevis sends the Mizzou students running onto the turf as Missouri wins it on a 61-yard field goal by Harrison Mevis. The students are...
I think that's when we all realized Mizzou was in for something special this past season. And you see on this slide that Mike was named Sportscaster of the Year by the National Sports Media Association in 2019. Well, that's just one of the 7 times he was named Sportscaster of the Year. Our thanks to Dave Matter for writing Mike's bio in tonight's program, which has more details on his wonderful broadcasting career. Already in the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame, and tonight we are thrilled to honor his signature "To the House" call by saying, Mike Kelly, to the Hall, the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame. Let's welcome him now. And we didn't bring in just anybody to interview Mike tonight. It's Mike's football broadcast partner and 2015 St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame inductee in his own right, former Mizzou and NFL offensive lineman Howard Richards, with us tonight to conduct Mike's interview.
So, a little bit of a role reversal here, huh? How's it feel to be on the other side of the interview?
A little intimidating. Just a couple of years ago, he was inducted into the University of Missouri Intercollegiate Hall of Fame, and I had the honor of interviewing him during his ceremony. This is one of the most intimidating parts of the evening because we know each other too well, and not knowing what's about to come is very, very scary.
I'll go easy on you.
In that regard, Howard, we have a special photo to show, don't we?
We'll get there. We'll
Okay.
get there. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you.
I'll stay out of it.
By the way, if I can interject just for a second, Tom Calhoun wasn't just a good broadcaster. Tom Calhoun is a great broadcaster. And back in the day, growing up in Dupo, Illinois, yeah, I listened to Jack. Yeah, I listened to Dan. Yeah, I listened to a number of people at KMOX. And they influenced my career. But to be able to listen to high school basketball on WIBV and to listen to Tom Calhoun and the late Joe May broadcast games was something that was very influential in my life. And I just told Tom this, to this day, Magic Johnson played at Michigan State and they were unbeaten 16-0 coming to Assembly Hall. Eddie Johnson knocks down a baseline jumper from the short corner, about 16-footer, to knock off Michigan State, hand them their first loss. And I still, to this day, remember Joe May's call of that game on WIBV. So, Tom, thank you for all you've done for Metro East and certainly for your work with the St. Louis Blues. And we worked together for a short time at KMOX, and he will always mean more than he knows to me.
Amen to that. So, before we get started, who's here with you tonight from the Kelly family?
So I have my wife, Lori. We've been married for 35 years, soon going to be 36. I have my two sisters, Robin Conway, her husband Keith, Kim Diesel. I have my nephew Kelly Diesel and my nephew Brian Conway and his wife Ashley. They are expecting their first baby boy.
Very nice.
But also I have with me my family from One Digital in St. Louis. We are a commercial insurance firm, the 16th largest independently held insurance firm in the United States. If you have a broker you don't like, please see me afterwards. We'll be happy to talk to you. But Lauren Wims, Dennis Bell, Jim Ringland, Brooks Ford, the whole gang. And then my Mizzou Sports Properties folks, led by Josh Pell, our terrific general manager, our partner, Chris Gervino, who I've been blessed to know for more than 30 years. And then his staff with Steve Sowers, Gary Northern, and Ryan. What's going on over there, buddy? Good to see you.
Stand up, guys, please. Mike's family,
Ryan
stand
Corbin.
up, please. Thank you all. So, Mr. Kelly, 33 years Mizzou basketball, 30 years Mizzou football. That is an impressive run. How'd you do it?
I've been very blessed, very lucky. People won't remember this, but in 1991, I had done color on Missouri basketball with Tom Dorr, who at the end of the 1990-91 season decided to take a job doing TV with a team called the Bulls. Went on to win 6 NBA titles, and he got 6 rings. But at that point in time, Joe Castiglione, who's now the athletic director at the University of Oklahoma, asked me if I would want to do play-by-play for Mizzou basketball. And what people won't remember is that my first color analyst was a guy named Joe Buck. And his father, and I will always call him Mr. Buck because of the reverence that I had for Jack, Mr. Buck used to say before we started doing games that year, "When are you two fledglings going to begin your careers?" One of us is still fledgling. The other guy's had a pretty good career along the way. So I've been very blessed, just very lucky. And then, Bill Wilkerson decided he was going to do the Phoenix Cardinals. And so in 1994, they offered me the opportunity to do Mizzou football. And by the grace of God, I haven't missed a game since the start of the 1994 season.
That's impressive. So other than the late, great Jack Buck and Joe, and of course, our good friend Bill Wilkerson, are there any others in the industry that you've looked up to, or those that you may have even wanted to emulate as a young pup?
I think Dwayne, and congratulations to him. I mean, he's somebody that I forgot he had gone to Tampa. I mean, that's old age setting in. But when he was with the Cubs, and I did PA at Busch Stadium for a couple of seasons, got a chance to meet him when I was working at KMOX full time. But there's a number of people I think that as broadcasters, you listen to throughout the year and throughout the years, and maybe you try to blend a little bit of them, but I think it's also important that you develop your own style, and that's what I've tried to do. Kevin Harlan is someone that's been very, very, kind to me throughout my time doing Missouri. Having the opportunity growing up and listening to Jack and to Dan Kelly and to Bob Costas, and people forget about the great Bob Starr and what a terrific broadcaster he was. My friend Randy Carricker and I, were at KMOX for many years together. and he's always been a great friend and a great sounding board. And so I just think there's a variety of different people that you listen to, throughout your career, and maybe you try to blend in a little bit about what they've done with what you're doing.
Yeah. Give the audience a couple of your favorite plays from all your years of doing either Mizzou football, basketball, or both. A couple of your favorite plays that you've enjoyed calling.
Beating Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl this year was pretty fun. That was a memorable moment that I think Missouri fans will remember for a long time. And you and I and Chris have talked about this. I think it's Missouri's biggest win in a bowl game since 1968 when they beat Alabama in the Gator Bowl. And the reason why I say that is because Missouri doesn't get the opportunity to play national brands in settings like that. The Gator Bowl or in the Cotton Bowl against Ohio State. And so to win that game on that stage and on that platform before an audience like that, I think will go a long way. I really think we're at the start of something pretty special at Mizzou with the football program. But I've always considered our roles, right? Like we're describing action, but we're also watching kids play a game, right? And it's about kids making plays. And so to answer your question in that regard, there are several, the triple overtime game against Illinois back in December of 1993 at the old, arena on Oakland Avenue. Shane Ray's scoop and score against Oklahoma State in the Cotton Bowl will be something that I'll always remember. But then there's also the other team, right? Because it's about kids making plays. Tyus Edney's run to the basket in 1995 with 4.8 seconds to go to allow UCLA to remain unbeaten and advance. They had lost a game, but to be able to remain as the number one team in the nation, survive and advance as they talk about the tournament, and eventually win a national championship, a kid making a play in that moment is just something that you're happy that you were a witness to. I did the NCAA tournament for CBS Radio for a couple of years, and I had a chance to call Bryce Drew's game winner in Oklahoma City against Ole Miss back in the 90s, and that's something that I'll remember as well. Getting to do the Rams in the NFC Championship game against Tampa Bay on CBS Radio was something that was a memorable day for me too.
If you had not been blessed to be able to broadcast Mizzou football, Mizzou basketball, and removing yourself from the insurance industry, what other profession might you have pursued?
I wanted to be an attorney when I was in high school, but then I realized I wasn't very smart. And that wasn't something that I was going to follow through on. Yeah. I don't know. And Frank was kind enough to ask me the question earlier: when did you know that you were going to make a career of this? And I liken broadcasting to, kind of like Broadway, which is an aspiring goal for my youngest daughter, or for the NFL draft, is that you need one person to like you. And in broadcasting, you need one person to like how you sound. And I don't know that we individually have ears that enjoy the way we sound. And so I was blessed, when I was in school at SIU, to get a chance to work for a guy named Mike Reese, who is an absolute mentor, and I love the guy. He's somebody that he checked in before the evening. I went to the University of Illinois and worked at WDWS in Champaign for several years and worked for a guy named Jim Turpin, who was a terrific mentor. And he gave me the opportunity at a very young age to do play-by-play, to do morning and afternoon drive sports, but then also to be able to do a talk show as well, which helped kind of lay the groundwork to having the opportunity to come to KMOX. And, I was hired by Robert Heinlein in 1988. I had auditioned for the job. The football Cardinals were leaving St. Louis, and there were a couple of positions in the sports department that were going to open up. Nancy Drew was leaving. Bob Mayhall was leaving. And I got a phone call because I had done some work for KMOX while I was in Champaign. Would you like to audition? And so I came down and I auditioned on a weekend, I think in April. And I'll never forget Jim Holder, who's been a dear friend and who I just love. I reached out to Jim and I said, how do I get this job? And he said, you got to get to Highland. I said, okay. How do you get to Robert Heinlein? He said, 314-444-3201. But understand this, If you don't get to him before 6 a.m., you will not talk to him the rest of the day. Mr. Highland, as you might remember, was a very devout Catholic, was a workaholic. Bob Greene from the Chicago Tribune wrote a great story back in the day about the classic workaholic of Robert Highland. He would literally get to the office at 11 p.m. And he was so involved in the community that he would do a lot of his civic duties between 11 p.m. and Mass at the old cathedral at 6 a.m. And so I formulated a plan that every Friday morning at 4:30, beginning in late April and continuing until late July, I would call 314-444-3201. And the conversations early on went like this. Robert Highland, Mr. Highland, Mike Kelly calling from Champaign. I just want you to know how much I want to work in the sports department. We're still looking. Click. Next Friday, same conversation. Mr. Highland, yeah, we haven't made a decision. Click. I mean, he was always very cordial, but it was always very brief. And finally, in about early June, on a Friday, I called, and he picked up the phone at 4:30, and he said, Michael, how are you? And I thought to myself, okay, we're getting somewhere. We have a chance. And so, and then at that point in time, that was a career goal, is I wanted to work at KMOX because I'd grown up as a kid going to, practice, and my dad in his old GMC pickup truck, either the dark gray one or the red one would pick me up from practice as a kid, and he'd always have on KMOX. And so that was the seed that was kind of planted.
That's fantastic. So one thing that I know about you that people in the audience may not know about you is that you're very competitive. You're highly competitive. A little bit of a jokester, right, Chris? You're pretty good play-by-play announcer, I'll give you that. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here right now. Decent golfer.
Here we go.
Never played. But the one thing, I'm going to set this record straight right now. If I were pass blocking and you were trying to
You
rush
could
the
not block
basket,
me. There's no way.
You could not get past me. And if you don't believe me, ask Lori Kelly. We almost tore up her basement one time. There might have been a few adult beverages involved as well. But the one thing, I will say this, the one thing that you are absolutely better than me at, and one thing that I always wanted to do and couldn't, was grow a big afro. You may be for a white guy too, one of the best afros ever. Do we have a picture of Mike Kelly in his afro someplace?
Where did you get that?
I used to work for CIA.
So far left side, Lindsay, it says BAC, for those that remember. There was a crazy coach that I played for named Jay Harrington back in the day. Wow. The hair, not Jay, of course.
I think we've left Mike Kelly speechless, almost.
It was the 80s, and it kind of just rolled,
Thank you, my friend.
Next slide.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Michael Patrick Kelly. My brother, congratulations and welcome to the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame.
I love you. Thank you.